house yet. Negative. I'm about between 5 and 6 north, south of 26, and I've not been able to locate anything yet. 33, can you run? Not yet, Rich. I'm still southbound on Park. I've got people branching off of Park. It's like they're looking for something, but no one's coming up with anything.
Welcome back, everyone, to Dabbling Duo. I'm Ben, this is Todd, and we have a very exciting day that we've been itching to get to, and we're finally here, and we're...
Wait, what adventure are we dabbling in today?
Today's adventure is something, this is an exclusive, Todd. It's an exclusive, no one has, this has never been published. We scoured the archives. We went to the Indiana Jones tomb. We tried to pull all the scrolls.
Stop making fun of my hat.
We did everything online. This story that we're going to break today has never been told, but we have an eyewitness. You can loosely dub it the Indiana Mothman, I would say, but keep an open mind. It's actually really different. We have a friend. His name is Jay. He grew up in northern Indiana, and we're going to go there on scene to check it out. There's a lot of strange things that go on around the area that he grew up.
So the area is just outside of Kokomo, Indiana, and Kokomo is known for strangeness, right? For years and years and years. We've got orange balls of light, we got sonic booms, we got other booms, we got the Kokomo hum. I mean, there's just
How many booms are
on
there?
and on. There's lots of booming going on, right? So, but Jay is a friend of ours from a long time. We've known him, 17, 18 years.
Long time.
Paranormal investigating is the world that we're kind of from. We've done that with him for years, and, being part of the paranormal, cryptids, right? So we talk about cryptids a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not a cryptologist. I'm not
I'm not
an
either.
expert on cryptids.
But actually, Indiana surprisingly has a lot of strange and interesting sightings of cryptids, of UFOs, of ghosts, and all these things. Being adventurers and people who like the strange and weird, we dive into this.
We're going to dabble. We're going to dabble into the cryptid world.
Dabble. That's great. Right.
We're going to dabble.
Pulling it in, right?
That's right.
You're still in the Kokomo area, right?
Yes.
Great. So we're heading up that way because we spoke to a friend of ours who had a cryptid sighting. But the reason why we want to talk to you is because we have some history with you. You have been a longtime researcher and an experiencer of the paranormal and things around Kokomo. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, that is correct. I've been in Kokomo for about 32 years now. I'm originally from Indianapolis, but I've been up here for a while. And that stuff tends to follow me, but in this case, I think it's been here long before I got here, so.
I know you've said this story over and over and over again, but give us a quick synopsis of your first real experience, what you've written about that got you into all of this.
Oh, it was back in '83, June the 30th. It's going to be 41 years ago that I had an experience down in Indianapolis at my parents' house, and it left a mark in the yard. There were independent witnesses. I was injured. My eyes were injured in this event. That mark lasted for 2 years, by the way. Snow melted off of it the first year.
Oh, my.
After that event, I reached out to a guy named Bud Hopkins, who had written a book that I tried to read called Missing Time, and he responded, and then ensued a 2-year or plus investigation into myself, my case, my family, that ended in a book called Intruders, The Incredible Visitations at Copley Woods, and a 3-part miniseries on CBS in 1992 of the same name. Intruders is a pretty well-known case, not just in Indiana or in the United States, but all over the place, as Bud Hopkins is actually one of the pioneers of the whole abduction / contact experience. And that's what got me started. One of the things I do when I'm afraid of something or I don't understand something is I try to learn as much as I can about it. So going forward with that, I ended up becoming a MUFON investigator for the state of Indiana for several years. Piggybacking off of that, I ended up getting interested in paranormal activity. And at one point, I was a member of the MUFON and a paranormal group in Indianapolis called MRIPA.
And we're familiar with them.
doing paranormal research work with them, as well as still helping out with MUFON. And as it turns out, and I moved up to Kokomo in 1993, I believe. One of the first things that happened to me when I was here in Kokomo was I noticed the Kokomo hum, which I'm sure anybody who's heard of Kokomo paranormal weird stuff has surely heard of the hum. It's been around for decades, and I heard it myself.
Okay.
And I asked my late husband, what is that noise? So I can attest that it is actually a thing. I heard it myself several times. I heard it when I came up here in the early 90s, and I heard it several times. I don't know if I just got accustomed to it and started to not notice it as much. I have heard other people mention, recently that they still hear it occasionally, although I have not, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about it for a while. So I don't think they've ever decided what it was. I mean, they tried to attribute it to one of the factories. We have a lot of motive factories here in town.
Sure.
One of the factories, or we're like 18 miles south of Grissom Air Force Base in Bunker Hill, and there's a lot of stuff going on underground there, and they kind of pointed a finger up there at some point, but I don't think anybody has ever definitively explained the Kokomo hum. I can tell you it sounded to me like a semi was parked maybe half a mile, a quarter mile down the road from me and idle. It was just kind of a low frequency sound that I could almost feel in a slight way, as it, not just hear it. And when I asked about it, that's what I was told. Oh, that's the Kokomo hum. A lot of people have seen a lot of things over Grissom over the years, and there's actually a MOA, a military airspace associated with them, and I maybe even Fort Wayne, I'm not sure, but it's just west and south of town, somewhere near where the Kokomo boom was said to have happened back in 2008. People around here are savvy enough that they know the difference between an explosion and a sonic boom. They know the difference between the flare drops and these orange balls of light that were reported over and over again in the early 2000s. And when I came to Kokomo, I was surprised at all the different stuff that happened around here. And I even had a friend. I met a friend. I actually met her through the course of doing a paranormal investigation on her home. And she proceeded to tell me about a UFO sighting she had here in Kokomo in 1966. And it was apparently a fairly widespread UFO event that happened here. And apparently in 1966, there was some kind of UFO activity reported here. And as well as in 1949, residents reported seeing a flaming object in the sky.
You say flaming objects, so wouldn't that be like I mean, when I think flaming objects, I think of the color orange. Would that be the orange balls that they've talked about?
That's what I thought. The object was described as orange and orangish white. And again, like orange, and it had a shimmering quality to it, which is exactly what these we called them O balls when I was in MUFON up here. And I have myself I witnessed these O balls myself on several occasions in March, prior to the April event that is now known as the Kokomo boom. It was a wild night. After it all went down, I ran upstairs and got on my computer, and I went to the police scanner website at the time, where you could listen, and I turned it on and immediately began to record. And I recorded 6 hours of chatter.
84, just information. State police just called, believe it is a plane down. A plane down at this time. We were trying to figure out the location.
Crew, Tipton County has requested multiple fire units out of Howard County. They do have some type of huge debris field at that location.
Assist Tipton County. Assist Tipton County. US 31, 300 north. US 31 and 300 north, just west of that intersection. Reference a explosion, being advised, possibly an aircraft down. Possibly an aircraft down. 300 north and 31 in Tipton County. Timeout 2236.
Tipton County, I've got neighbors telling me they've heard a boom, but then nobody's been able to tell me where it's at, and nobody's telling me where any debris is at.
33, can you run? Not yet, Rich. I'm still southbound on Park. I've got people branching off of Park. It's like they're looking for something, but no one's coming up with anything.
Howard County 3461. 3461. County, I'm here at the location at 3 North. There's nothing here. 61, we're going to try to reestablish a connection with Tipton and see if they can give us more information. Last time we talked to them, they just said send everything they had that direction. They gave us that intersection. You may want to go direct with 1661, Ron Fisher. He's stating that he's getting information. It's at another west coordinate, about 3 miles away from our location now. 1661.
It's approximately 10:30 p.m. on April 16th, 2008. Several loud percussive noises rattled homes in Kokomo, and residents reported seeing streaks of light illuminate the sky. Even the event prompted local authorities to dispatch law enforcement officers to look for a possible downed aircraft, but no evidence of a craft was ever found, according to an Associated Press article printed the next day. An Indiana Air National Guard officer based in Fort Wayne said the boom and accompanying lights could have come from an F-16 jet training exercise, breaking the sound barrier and deploying flares. But it added that his unit's logs did not show that any sonic booms were produced that night. In the transcript of a radio transmission from that evening, a sheriff's deputy says Grissom Air Base Reserve near Kokomo just advised me their security forces advised that there are not any military aircraft that's been up or doing anything in that area, because they just contacted Fort Wayne as well, just to make sure. And I have recordings of them saying, we are at the only known debris site, and to begin staging. I mean, why do you say stuff like that over the radio when there's no crash? But anyway,
wow.
149 people called in police report that night. 149 people, and several of the people we talked to as MUFON investigators, a few of them reported actually seeing an explosion in the sky and seeing a UFO in the sky before the explosion.
Bingo, I was right. Here's the cemetery.
Oh, it is. Yes.
Here's the cemetery coming in.
Okay, let me.
So I was
roll this
correct.
down. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna get some noise.
You're gonna
here,
get some wind noise.
This is the cemetery, guys. There's the patch of woods that he's talking about.
Yep.
All right, I'm just gonna film all of this so we can see. Here we go. Wow, that is the woods. This is how I imagined it, actually.
This is exactly how I imagined it. So I'm guessing over here on the right is our newer section of the cemetery.
Yeah.
And here to the left is the older section of the cemetery.
Yeah.
Let's see what.
Bring this up.
So Jay, you were telling us a story the other day.
Yes, sir.
And I would really like you to just start from the beginning and tell us that whole story again, if you don't mind.
Okay, so rewind to my elementary school days. I used to hear stories on the school bus from two older boys' brothers who lived down the road about a guy in the area that could fly. Now, when this first started, I was probably third grade, so, impressional age, you're going to think of stuff, no internet, no cable, my mind's going everywhere.
So, which is probably what, late 70s?
Me?
Yeah.
No, probably early 70s.
I mean, for third grade, it was early 70s? Okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
very impressionable, and I was a kid, into, science fiction and fantasy at that age, so my mind's going everywhere, but, my attention span as a third grader is non-existent, so I don't think much of it until you hear, cousins and more boys talking about it, kids in the neighborhood, riding their bikes around in the summer, talking about this flying guy, this flying man. And then I didn't really think anything serious about it until I was probably 6th grade, 7th grade, and my brother and some of his friends
Wait,
went
Jay,
camping.
when you say flying man, are you like a guy with a jetpack or a glider?
That can fly on his own with wings, but I'll get to that description.
Yeah.
He was not flying with the help of any kind of aid or kites or jet or a jetpack. This guy could fly on his own with wings.
Okay.
So 6th grade, 7th grade, somewhere around there, my brother and a couple of his younger friends, his age and his class, they would go down to the cemetery at night. Because if you go in there at night after dark on a bike, no one can see you. So they would go down there, and they did this several times. But on this one occasion, they came back. They were all excited and a little bit scared. And they kept talking about the fact that when they got settled, this man was by a tree, kind of half hidden, kind of see his face, tallish. And as soon as the man made eye contact with these 3 or 4 kids, he went up the tree. I remember one of the boys saying he scampered up the tree, like he kind of crawled up the tree, and then he went up. And it's night. They never saw where he went up to. But this was the beginning of my brother and some of his friends seeing this thing.
Okay.
So that's 6th, 7th grade. So fast forward a few years, and it's June of 1985. And I am getting ready to go into my junior year of high school the following fall. My brother's getting ready to start high school in the fall. And it's a Saturday afternoon. I'm in my parents' front yard. They're not home. I was doing some yard work for my dad. And my brother and one of his friends come tearing down the road on their bikes. And this time they're scared. Also very excited, and
It's like a real Stranger Things moment.
very much so. Very much so. Stranger Things, E.T., the works, the bikes, you know the scenario. And John and his friend come tearing into the yard, and his friend is like, look down the road. And I see what I think looks like to be a big buzzard or a chicken hawk, which in farm country in the summer, that's a routine sighting. There's
Sure.
animals on the road, there's dead livestock wherever, and I'm not thinking it's any big deal. And his friend is like, no, look at it again. And that's when I realized that's not a bird, because this thing with wings had a human torso and legs. Like, it was very obvious it was not a bird, it was not a buzzard, it was not a kite. And this is, pre-drone, there was no, it was nothing like that, because, this is 1985, and this thing was, flapping its wings up and then soaring back down, swooping. It was swooping down towards the tree line of the cemetery. And this went on a good 10 minutes, and then he just finally went into the woods, and it stopped.
So they would bike through these woods here, Todd.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
let's go up here and
here.
park. Or let's find just going up here.
I'm going to go up here and park.
Yeah, this goes right into the woods, too.
Ooh. Yeah, there's some really older
I'm getting kind of a weird feeling out here. I don't know. We're not even outside the truck yet.
The three of us saw it. I think my brother was a lot more skeptical than the friend and I, because it was one of those occurrences where, you hear people that see extraterrestrials and they matrix it as, I saw an owl out the window, I saw a wolf out the window, I didn't actually see what I saw. And I think that was a situation for him and maybe some of these kids in prior years, is that it was just a buzzard. It was just a chicken hawk. Chicken hawks are not 7 feet tall. I mean, they're not man-shaped with legs and a human torso and all black. Like, that was the thing that has been in my mind all these years later. I mean, I can still vividly picture the wings having a very oval shape to them. And I did not see arms. Like, where arms should be, there were wings.
Okay. His arms were the wings, like you might see on a pterodactyl or something.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Do you remember if it was wearing clothes at all, or had any kind of clothing?
I felt like it was. That was the odd thing. It was like it had like a tunic on and some kind of very loose pant on. That was another thing that stuck in my head as being very odd. And keep in mind, I'm probably 10 years out before hearing anything about the Mothman. That was not in my head in 1985, because the only cryptid I knew about in 1985 was Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster, but nothing else. I mean, this is pre-internet cryptid days, so
right. Yeah.
I didn't. All I know was I was seeing a masculine human figure with long oval wings swooping in and out of this cemetery, and that's what the boys saw too.
You call this thing the Swooping Man,
right?
Based on how it flew. Okay, so was this a term that was coined before or after that you saw it?
I don't think I coined the term. I think John's friend did, actually. Because I remember him saying, I remember him using that thing, saying, look at it swoop down. And that's what stuck in my head, because prior to that, it was just boys on the school bus saying the flying man, or, kids saying, oh, have you seen the flying man lately? And I didn't know what they were talking about, but now I did.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're downwind from the...
Yeah, we are. We're downwind from the pig farm. So it's a rather...
Got lots of juicy flavors.
Rather stinky. This is a really cool headstone. I wish I could read it. I don't know who you are, but your headstone's cool. So, Ben.
Yeah.
Just got a text from Jay.
Okay.
Says he went through his Google Docs looking at his note. He said he first heard about the Flying Man in 1974, which was kindergarten for him.
Okay.
Older boys on the school bus to go home in the afternoons were telling him the stories. He says the stories seemed to have peaked between 1977, which was his third grade, and 1985.
Wow.
That's when he was going into his junior year. Yeah. So 1985 is when he spotted it, right? Here's the thing. He saw it in June of 1985.
Okay.
It's June now.
Oh, it is, yes.
We just talked to Deb. Her thing happened in June.
In June?
Yeah.
We're gonna see the Swooping Man, dude.
Well, her Kokomo stuff happened in April, but her original event happened in June.
It was a very determined set pattern of flight.
And it did it several times, right?
Oh, it did it repeatedly for at least 10 minutes. We just stood there in the yard and watched it, and then it suddenly stopped. I'm trying to rationalize this. My dad is a scientist. He's a chemist, and I'm trying to think in my head, it's really just a buzzard. It's really just a chicken hawk.
Yeah.
But I also knew it was not. I grew up in farm country. That was not normal. That was not normal.
Well, the fact that all of the kids, and including yourself, your reaction was that this isn't a thing I've ever seen before.
Right. You guys saw that. You guys saw chicken hawks and buzzards all the time.
And you had a sighting together.
Right.
Now, what was your emotional state at the time, if you remember or recall, especially if it was 10 minutes? That's a long time.
That's a long time.
That's a long time to be watching something. That's
right.
Just blowing your mind.
I think the initial reaction was, what am I seeing? Because when I first turned to look at the cemetery, because I saw them coming down the road, but I wasn't paying attention to what was going on in the sky until they got to the yard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My thinking is, yes, that really is a chicken hawk. But then I immediately realized it's too big. It's just too wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This thing about it was wrong for what I had seen growing up. That was no buzzard. That was no chicken hawk. That was a man with wings.
You probably can't see it on the camera there, but I'm sure you can see. If you look down there, you can see where the house was or the house is and everything.
Yep.
See buildings down there. That's not very far to see something my size or bigger, because he said up 7 feet tall, right?
Yeah.
So bigger than me by over a foot.
Yeah.
With wings, flying through the air, swooping down to the trees and going back up multiple times for 10 minutes.
And the big thing would, if you saw legs, human legs are different than turkey buzzard or whatever,
Well, and that brings me to something.
Yes.
Have you ever seen the 2016 Mothman photos?
I don't believe so.
Look up the 2016 Mothman photos. I can show them to you. Somebody in West Virginia finally got photos of what they say is the Mothman, and you can see one of the most prominent things about these photos is you can see the legs dangling.
Oh, wow.
As this thing is flying through the sky.
A few years later, I read the book Communion by Whitley Strieber. He talks about how people who have abduction experiences see owls because their brain does not want to process what it actually saw, or it can't. I want to tell myself it's a bird. I want to tell myself, it's just a big buzzard, but it was not. It was clearly not.
Do you remember any noise, any sounds?
That's one of my questions.
No. None at all. It was silent. No, there was nothing coming from this thing, and it was too far away. If I had been underneath it in the cemetery, maybe I might have heard something, but we were just too far down the road.
Do you remember, could you see where the wings flapping, or was it just had wings?
Yeah. Definite flapping movement like you'd see a hawk do when it was hunting prey. That was the familiar piece of it to me.
Okay.
But the fact that the wings were so long and so oval shaped on the end, and just the elongated nature of it, everything was just registering, this is not a bird.
Right.
This is not a bird. This is a man with wings. And you mentioned fear. I never felt fear until years later when I thought back on this.
What was that?
Freaking me out. It was too far away to see the face, but it was always described to me as long, tall. Those were the adjectives used: tall, long, masculine. It was very clearly a man to these boys. These boys saw a man in the woods.
So
and my brother grew up in the same household. He's also thinking scientifically because of our father. It was a man, but the man going up the tree and then up beyond that was not registering to him. How did that happen? What did I just see?
So this would have been the forest, right? What do you call this? Woods, forest?
It's a woods in Indiana.
Yeah.
Because it's not big enough to really be a forest, but we have, you know, clumps of trees that get pretty thick.
I mean, it's pretty thick back here. He said it was.
He said it was. I mean,
And
imagine if this spot wasn't here. I mean, come over here for a little bit.
Okay. Let's follow Todd here.
Without that clearing there, this is what you normally see at this time of year, right?
Yep.
You're not going to go in there very far. In Indiana, we've got poison ivy, poison oak. I believe there's even some poison sumac.
We got the occasional
snakes,
snake.
ticks, and that's not talking about the sticker bushes that you're going to get into. You know, when you start climbing in through there, you're going to get lots of sticker bushes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's pretty thick.
That's dense back there. Let's go around the other side over here.
One thing we didn't really get was what tree they saw him behind.
Oh, right, yeah. Well,
there's some old trees here.
Is that an old marker there?
It just says 31. That might be a plot marker, meaning that there's a plot here, but nobody's in it.
Let me get it here. So it opens up into this wheat field here, right? I mean, he was right. You can see.
Oh, yeah.
So far. Look at that.
Yeah. And so basically, the other side of this field, down there, is going to be the house where he was standing in the yard.
Straight back this way.
Straight back that way. They came riding down
this road right here.
The road.
Yep.
On their bicycles.
So the road's right there at the end of this line here, and then turns, and then you can goes all the way down.
All the way down that way, which is where he would have been. So my thing is, I don't know where they were camping.
Yeah.
They said they used to camp over here a lot, because that was the creepy thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And in the 80s, as a kid, yeah, I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we don't know what tree they saw this thing by. I mean, you can look in through here and you can see there's some really old growth trees here. So
he saw it in the cemetery, though.
He didn't.
Okay.
His brother and his brother's friends saw it in the cemetery up close. But he was down there, and it was in the air, swooping down towards these trees.
Above the woods.
Above this woods right here, yes.
But yeah, there was reports of it in the cemetery here.
In the cemetery behind a tree. Like stepping out from behind a tree.
Okay, let's entertain for a moment.
Well, that's what you have to do when you're investigating something.
That this is real, right?
Yeah.
And I'll show you these trees here. They're pretty mature now. These would have been...
Even back then, some of these would have been pretty big.
You think so?
Some of them would have been smaller, but like this tree's pretty old. This tree over here, you can tell is really old. Mm-hmm. There's another one over there that looks really big and old. I mean, obviously I'm not a tree expert, right? But I've lived in Indiana long enough to know some of these bigger trees are quite old.
Yep. This doesn't sound like a normal man, like with wings, right? So it's got to be. It sounds like a creature, right? It sounds like a creature. That's what cryptids are, though, right?
Yes.
Whether you're talking about Bigfoot or Loch Ness or whatever, and it can fly, then you would think that it would swoop into some of these trees. How are you going to get through these leaves up here? You know. Good questions about it.
That's a good question. That's a good question, but
I mean, I guess you could come down and swoop and get into a clearing.
I mean, I don't have wings, so I don't know.
I guess you'd be pretty adept at it, but
yeah, you would, and I imagine standing here, you could pop out. So if you're way down there,
yeah,
and I pop out from here, even if I'm out here, where I'm not far from clearing, right?
Yeah.
If you're way down there, I look like I'm right behind that tree.
That's true.
So to you, I step out like this, you see me.
Was he on the ground or was he in the tree though?
He was on the ground, from my understanding.
Okay. It feels like a storm coming.
There is something about this cemetery. I'm getting like...
I told you.
I'm not like...
I don't get these feelings.
No, well, we're paranormal investigators. We're in places all the time where I don't get any kind of...
What is it to you? What are you feeling?
There's something just creepy about it. I don't get
we've been in
creeped out by
cemeteries
places.
before.
Oh, all the time. I don't get creeped out by places, but there's almost a heaviness here, even. Maybe it's because, but today it's, there's storms rolling in. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, but that's world school, bro. I don't. It is quiet. I'll give it that.
So here's the tree line.
Yep.
Right here. There's the tree line right there. And he would have been swooping above it. Down and up, down and up. For 10 minutes.
That's what's killing me, is 10 minutes.
That's a long time to be witnessing something.
So we've gone on investigations, different kinds of investigations. There are like ghost investigations, or even real human investigations, But
missing persons cases investigations.
anytime you hear about a sighting or an experience or witnessing an event, so many times it's just a few seconds, or not very long at all. Maybe 30 seconds.
But sometimes people do say it's like time slows down. So maybe he felt like it was 10 minutes,
Okay.
but it was more like 2 minutes. But 2 minutes to witness something like that over and over, even 2 minutes is a long period of time.
That allows you, I feel like that ingrains the memory even more, and maybe that's why he has such a vivid memory of it, because you're watching this thing and it's
Yes.
over and over,
Yes.
and you're like, you have a lot of time for your brain to go, what is this?
Right.
Doesn't it feel like he would feel a lot better if it was an owl?
Oh yeah.
If it was
for
a turkey buzzard?
Yeah, because he could explain it. Yeah.
But
he'd be like, yeah, and we wouldn't be having this
it's
conversation.
haunted him for 40 years, or, like he's like, what is this thing? So.
And there were stories about it before he ever saw it.
Yeah, that was the kicker to me, but. So we have the Swooping Man. This is his home, essentially.
This is it.
Hey, maybe he's not around anymore. Maybe he's died of old age if it was 40 years ago. Swooping Man sounded like an adult back then.
Maybe he's buried right here.
He could be buried.
But then again, who knows how long does a Swooping Man live?
Do Swooping Men have mates that, I
don't know.
That's the other thing about this. Oh, we see one Swooping Man. Where's its family at, right?
I don't know. We were talking earlier about how much Kokomo has all this other activity, right? Mm-hmm. What if Swooping Man was an alien that was only here for a certain time period?
Oh, I didn't even think about that, because there was the crash, or it could have been a crash, or
right. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was stranded here for a while.
That's a cool theory, or a cool hypothesis. My take is it's a wonderful, wonderful story. The fact that we've got firsthand witness of the Swooping Man. Someone else out there, if you've heard of a flying man in Indiana or in this area, I know we're not that far from Chicago, and there's been sightings of the Mothman.
Yeah.
I don't know what the descriptions were for that. For as Indiana, this is the first that I've heard of anything like this. And we didn't know about this, but until a few weeks ago. And the Dabbling Duo continue to look for new adventures. This is actually probably one of our favorites so far.
This is right up our alley.
We love history, and we've got more mundane, historical places we're going to go to.
Which we love, even though he says they're mundane. We still love going.
When I say mundane, it's not
more mainstream. Yeah, it's not paranormal. Yeah.
But still, there's a lot of great history for some of these places that have a historical importance and an age to them, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I've always said here in the United States, we're not very good at preserving our culture and our history and our older buildings. Europe really excels at keeping their older buildings alive. They appreciate the historical importance of them.
They're a lot older too, so
Yes,
they've realized it before.
We're getting there, right? But it's very quiet. This whole patch of woods here, it is quite large, rather.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of woods.
So if you were an alien or a mythical creature, or just even someone trying to get away from other people, it's actually not a bad little stretch of woods to
you make a really good point, and there's water right over here. There's a small creek over here that seems pretty full right now, but they've got some water this morning, some rain this morning, but water close by, woods.
It's quiet, not a lot of people coming here. So maybe you're the Swooping Man and some kids coming through your territory, you might want to scare them off.
That very well could be.
If you have any questions, get our contact information below in the description. Contact us, email us, leave a comment. We want to know what your opinion of the Swooping Man is. Have you had stories, ever heard of such a thing? We'd love to talk to you with that. In the meantime, we've got some more adventures to do.
Do we?
We do, and they'll be coming out soon. So stick with us, and we will see you next time.
See ya.